For this assignment, you'll be creating a hierarchy of 5 classes that will describe various elements of an ultimate Frisbee team. You can go on the Edhesive website and read a little bit more about what is an ultimate Frisbee team. But the assignment description talks about the different classes that you're going to write: person, ultimate player, captain, coach, and finally ultimate team. So the assignment description is really detailed. I need you to read it. For each class that you're going to create, there are some variables within the class, and then there are some methods that need to also be contained in the class, and all of that stuff is listed out for you. In the way we've been doing this over the past few assignments, you should be familiar with this method, but you open up a runner file that references these class files that you create. You can download the runner file from the Edhesive assignment page. So let's go ahead and open the runner file that I've downloaded, student runner ultimate. So if I open that up, it's just a Java file that is referencing the class files that we're going to be making. And all the different class files are going to be saved as their own .java file. And all of those files, so all your 5 class files and the student runner file, so those 6 total files, need to be in the same folder on your computer when you're running this through Dr. Java. So if I compile my runner file, I'm going to get a bunch of errors because it's referencing some classes that don't exist yet. So for example, this first line here, where I haven't actually written a person class yet. So when you go to the assignment sheet, the first thing that it kind of lists for you is to make the person class. So if you scroll all the way down, you can see the milestones. There's 4 milestones, and the first one that you'll want to do is write a person class. So I'll go ahead and do that with you now. I'll kind of walk you through a couple steps of the program, and then I'll let you fill out the rest. So we will click in Dr. Java, New, and I immediately have a file that's called Untitled. So if I right-click on the file, and on Macintosh, I don't know what you have to press. Maybe that's Command-click. Go down to Rename File, and within the same folder as your runner file, I'm going to name this Person with a capital P. So now if I hit Save, notice we've now renamed it person.java. And when you read in the assignment description, it talks about the way that your methods need to be written, and probably one of the more important things is that all your variables should have access level of private, and all required methods should have an access level of public. So that's written in the assignment description. So that's where you would find that information. So let's go ahead and write this person file together. What's in, again, it needs to be public, so we're going to type out public, and then it's a class, and I'm going to call it person, the capital P. Now I'll open my curly brackets, and I'll just hit enter, and I'll just immediately close my curly brackets so I don't actually ever forget to do this. So then I can go ahead and put my cursor back to the first curly bracket and press enter, and I'm at a new line and I'm indented. The assignment module page describes that the person class needs 2 variables. The first one is called first name, and the second variable is called last name. And once again, the description says that the variables need to be private. So we're going to type in private string first name, private string last name. I'm going to change the font size just so that you guys can see it a little bit better. Okay, so we have our initial class. It's called person. It's public. We have 2 variables, and that's exactly what they tell us to do. And now we have 2 methods that we need to write. The first method is called person, and the second method is called toString. So the first method is person, and I'm just copying this straight off of the description page for this assignment. So when I'm done writing my arguments that will be used for this method, I'm going to open curly bracket, press enter, immediately close the curly bracket. That way you don't ever forget to do that. Now go back and click to the first one and enter again. That takes a couple steps, and I understand that may seem tedious or annoying, but if you do that, you won't forget your curly brackets at the end. So now I'm indented properly. So this method is going to take in string parameters. So notice we have two different parameters. One is called this, one is called last name, and that represents the first and last name. So the way we write this is this dot first name is referring to our private variable that we created up here. This dot first name is the private variable that we've created up here, and that is going to be equal to first name, which this first name is equal to this first name here that I've highlighted. I think Edhesive probably is doing this to test you, to make sure you actually know what these variables are referring to, but I think they could have been a little more clear. So once again, I'll type this out again. This dot last name is referring to the variable that we created up here on line 3. That's why we say this dot last name, and then that is going to be equal to last name. Okay, now we're done with our first method, and the second method we need to create is a toString method, and this returns a string with the following format: last name, comma, space, first name. So we're going to return a variable. So we're going to make this public, and what are we returning? We're returning a string, and what are we calling it? toString. And what are we receiving? We're not receiving anything. So I'm not passing any variables to this method. That's why it's empty. So open curly bracket, press enter, close curly bracket. That way you don't forget. Press enter again. Now we're indented properly. And what are we supposed to do? I'm just following exactly what it tells me on the Edhesive website. It says we need to return a string with the following format of last name, comma, space, first name. So that would be return. And what are we going to return? Last name. Okay, so this variable is referring back up to line 3, this private string that we called. Okay, now what are we going to return? We're going to hit plus. We need a comma and a space, so I put those inside of double quotes. And then I'll do the plus sign again so I can concatenate the first name. And now you are done with the first method. Now remember, you have to do the first class. You have to do 5 different classes. I've walked through one of them already with you. With the next video, I'll walk through 2 more of them. I won't go as in-depth, but I'll give you a good starting point for the rest of the assignment. Go ahead and hit save. So don't forget to hit save. Now if we come back to the runner file, you'll remember that we had an initial error when we compiled it on this line here highlighted in yellow. Now if I recompile, notice that there's no error anymore. Well, that's because we actually created the class file up here. Our next error that's coming up when I compile it is for this ultimate player, because it's referencing a class that doesn't exist yet. So that's how we can know that we are properly creating these classes. So I'm going to stop here, and on the next video we'll talk about 2 more classes, kind of give you a good starting point for this assignment.